When Obi-Wan Kenobi spoke of his former friend and apprentice Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker, it was clear that the Jedi Master believed there was no hope for Vader to be redeemed, to again see the emergence of Anakin Skywalker. For Obi-Wan, quite literally, Vader had murdered Anakin, with the Dark Lord destroying the Jedi Knight who Obi-Wan knew decades earlier. Anakin was gone, and this meant that the twisted and evil individual known as Darth Vader could never be redeemed. This wasn't a conclusion made on a whim by Obi-Wan, a sudden realization that sprang to mind when asked about Vader by Luke. The idea that those Jedi who fell not just to accept the dark side, but also to specifically join the Sith couldn't be redeemed back into the light had been prevalent among the Jedi Order for centuries. In the Order's teaching manual provided to all Jedi going through its lessons and ranks, a Jedi Master named Resteli Quist, who was the chief librarian of the Jedi Order following the new Sith Wars, explained the history of the Sith. Not surprisingly for a Jedi, she first noted the destructive nature of the dark side, and its promotion of selfish and impulsive energies that preyed upon Jedi who were clouded by chaos. Even more important, Master Quist explained that Jedi who gave in to the dark side and joined the Sith frequently experienced a spiritual corruption by the dark side that couldn't be reversed. This isn't the only Jedi precedent for the idea that it was impossible to redeem Jedi who fell to the dark side. Roughly 4,000 years before the Clone War, a Jedi Master named Toleris Shim was exceedingly skeptical that any Jedi could be redeemed after falling to the dark side, having watched so many Jedi fall to join the Sith during the Great Sith War and the subsequent so-called redemption of Lewitt Droma. So he set out to make a fairly wise and broad conclusion on the matter of redemption, which was this. A Jedi who simply strayed away from the ways of the Order might merely be said to be tainted by the dark side and still had a chance to return to the light. However, those Jedi who were liberated by the dark side and found this newfound freedom and power exhilarating were very unlikely candidates for redemption. These fallen Jedi would give themselves over completely to the dark side, and for Master Shim, a Jedi could very well try to bring them back to the light, but was forceful in concluding they also had a responsibility to stop the Darksider any way that was required. As the Revenge of the Sith novelization makes clear, Anakin without a doubt fell into this latter description given by Master Shim. In becoming Vader, by accepting the dark side and Sith Order, Anakin was completely liberated from the Jedi restraint he always felt was holding him back from his true power, and he undoubtedly found it exhilarating, finally accepting the title he thought was a lie throughout the Clone Wars, truly becoming the hero with no fear. Therefore, based upon the teachings and principles established in Jedi writings over millennia, it's not surprising why Obi-Wan believed his former friend could never again be redeemed. As Yoda put it perfectly, Anakin had gone down the path of the dark side, and thus, it consumed him and would dominate his destiny. But Obi-Wan's conclusion about Darth Vader's redemption that was explained to Luke in the original trilogy wasn't merely based on ancient Jedi teachings. More important was his own experience with Vader on Mustafar, and the experiences he had with the dark side, the Sith, and the latter's agents during the Clone War. In this way, nothing was more important in his predicting the course of Vader's future than his experience with Dooku's dark side acolyte Asajj Ventress. 3 years after his brutal duel with Vader on Mustafar, Obi-Wan had time to reflect upon the differences he saw within Asajj Ventress and his former apprentice, writing down his thoughts that formed part of a journal that would eventually be discovered by Luke, and which we had the chance to see in the Jedi vs. Sith: The Essential Guide to the Force. In his writings, Obi-Wan defines Ventress extremely uniquely. Without a doubt, she was a dark side acolyte in every way. She was filled with fury and rage, and a capacity for murder in ways that shocked Obi-Wan. Even more, she was a student of the Sith Lord Dooku and carried out his devastating orders during the Clone War. And yet, for all these similarities between Ventress and Dooku, Obi-Wan could still sense and understand at the time that she was not a Sith. She was not unquestionably evil, and even more important, there was still good within her that hadn't yet been corrupted by the dark side or the Sith. The actions of Ventress were the result of an underlying fear of being alone, and this made her a tool of the dark side. When Obi-Wan was able to learn about the early murder of her parents by the warlords of Ratatak, her rescue and training by Jedi Master Kai Narek, and the tragic death of her master that left her wanting to seek vengeance against the Jedi Order for abandoning him, Obi-Wan became only more sympathetic. Obi-Wan still sensed the good within her and understood the fear that drove her to the dark side, believing right up until their last encounter during the Clone War that she could stop using her fear to fuel her rage and ultimately be redeemed back into the light. But for Obi-Wan, Darth Vader was different entirely. He recognized that Vader and Ventress shared some experiences in having both gone through the painful loss of loved ones, and in both having their legitimate reasons for distrusting both the Republic and Jedi Order, but the similarities stopped there for Obi-Wan. Whereas Obi-Wan always sensed some good still within Ventress, when he met Vader on Mustafar, he sensed nothing but pure evil within him. The light he knew existed within Anakin was extinguished. Even more, in writing 3 years after Order 66, Obi-Wan was brutally honest in taking measure of Anakin's life and opportunities. In doing so, he was able to completely distinguish the events that drove Ventress to the dark side and those that influenced Anakin's path. For Obi-Wan, Anakin certainly had his struggles, that was undeniable. But Obi-Wan did not see his apprentice as a victim of unfortunate circumstances in the same way that Ventress was. While Obi-Wan could understand why Ventress feared abandonment and embraced vengeance, he was not so understanding with his former friend. In relation to Ventress on the brutal planet of Ratatak, Obi-Wan saw Anakin as having been given tremendous opportunities to improve himself. He was powerful, and he had access to friends that could help him. And yet, in following the path of a true Sith, Anakin was someone who craved more and more power, eventually falling to embrace the path of the dark side. While Obi-Wan wrote honestly of his former friend and apprentice to the benefit of Luke, he was also wise and honest enough to conclude that all of it rested on his shoulders as Obi-Wan's greatest failure. Therefore, in looking back at the final days and months of the Clone War, examining the experiences he had with Darth Vader and the Darkside acolyte Asajj Ventress, Obi-Wan was able to establish the important differences between them that allowed Ventress to find redemption and why it was completely hopeless in the case of Vader. Of course, Obi-Wan was completely wrong in the end, but it wasn't a conclusion that he made lightly as seen within his own writings, and it makes Luke's story that much better in my opinion. So there we have it, why Obi-Wan believed Darth Vader could never be redeemed. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. You can find all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel in the description below, for updates and even more Star Wars content. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for pleasant surprises.